Hey, Ryan here from setthepacetriathlon.com. This video we're going to go over some ideas. Once you're getting about 4 to 5 weeks out from race day, it's time to start checking your gear to cross the T's, dot the I's, make sure that you're not going to have any surprises when you go to pack your stuff. You know, you're getting ready the week of the event and you're packing your stuff up to either drive or fly the event, and you realize you got some problems that you need to get fixed in a hurry and you don't want to be scrambling around. So 4 to 5 weeks out, this is kind of stuff you want to be looking at, especially if you're going to fly someplace. It's going to be a lot more difficult to get where you're going, land, and get a car and go find someplace to get all this stuff done. At least if you're traveling by car, there might be opportunities to kind of stop at different places and get stuff taken care of. But now's the time to be thinking about this stuff and getting it taken care of. So we'll just go through kind of a mental checklist that I've kind of gone through over the years, that these are the things that I'm looking at as I'm doing my training and getting ready to do my races. So make sure your new run shoes are broken in. So if you're going to have new shoes, newer shoes on race day, I said don't. I've done videos where I've advised people every 300 miles or 6 months or so you want to be rotating your shoes out, because at that point they've lost elasticity and they're not going to be very supportive and they can lead to injuries or other issues. So I do recommend having a pretty fresh pair of shoes. Probably want them in the 150 to 200 mile range. So when you come to race day, they're nice and broken in, but they're not over the edge or not getting close to being done. So if you're getting new shoes, make sure you're breaking them in slowly but surely. So like I said, about 150, 200 miles on race day. I track mine in Garmin Connect to make sure I have my mileage set, because sometimes you feel it, and just sometimes you just kind of get used to it and you don't realize how many miles you really put on your shoes. So make sure that you've got a good idea where your shoes are and the proper mileage built in them. Don't, the week of the race, don't break out your new shoes and they feel all nice and fresh and you go on race day and you end up with blisters about mile 8 or 10 because they're not broken in properly. Believe me, that is not very comfortable to have blisters at that point in your full Ironman, or even in a half Ironman at mile 6 or 7. You don't want blisters in your shoes because you can break them in right. Make sure your bike is tuned up. This is a big one. I'd usually go out about a month out just to make sure there's no carryover. You know, something didn't get screwed or tightened down right or something like that. You get plenty of rides on your bike, the longer rides. Just make sure everything's broken in, because your cables, if you get new cables or anything, they'll stretch, and you want to take them one more time into the bike shop just to get everything run through, make sure all the gears and the shifting work right. So get your bike tuned up. Like I said, about 4 weeks out, get it tuned up so you do get some rides in there and get everything kind of fine-tuned and dialed in, so then you can take it one last time to just make sure you go through all the gears, make sure everything's good. Bike tires and tubes are in good shape, so make sure you're not riding on your bike tire that you've been riding on your training all winter. Just make sure every year replace your tires and your tubes, even if they look good. I mean, you put miles on them, it's just like your car tires. You know, you put so many miles on them, they look okay, but in the end, you probably want to replace them and keep them fresh. So I go through and I put in new tires and tubes. And you want to do it a couple weeks out just to make sure. You don't want to do it the week of or the few days before the race, just in case you do a pinch flat and it's a slow flat and you get there on race day and your tire's flat. You don't want to have to deal with that on race day. So like I said, 4 to 5 weeks out, make sure you change your tires and your tubes, make sure everything's fresh on that. Make sure you have all of your flat tire repair gear as well in your bike bag. Make sure if you have valve extenders, you got that little bitty wrench to get the extenders on and off, and the Presta valves. Got to have inner tubes or removable valves if you're doing valve extenders that do that. So just make sure everything's squared away. So your tires, your tubes, and your flat tire repair kit, make sure it's all refreshed and renewed. So bike shoes, make sure, because we all don't look at the bottom of our shoes, so make sure your cleats are in decent condition, because you know they're all nice and fresh and everything, all the plastic on there, but after you use them, you're walking around on them, you've done a few races on them, these backs tend to wear down. You want to make sure that all the screws are still in there. You don't want to get to race day and then hop on your bike and you're about 20 miles into it and you stop or something and try to get off, or you realize something's loose, only to find out you had one screw left. So make sure these are nice and tight. So check your screws, make sure they're not over corroded. Because if they are, they could potentially break during the race if you get in there and put too much torque. But at least make sure you got 2 screws per cleat. If you run into a situation where you're kind of, you don't have a chance to get more screws or anything. But just go over your shoes, make sure like the straps are good, that nothing's frayed, nothing's going to snap on your race day. just make sure they're in good shape too, as well as your running shoes. Make sure you got your tri clothing lined out. So make sure your tri suit, or if you're going to be a two-piece, make sure that's all good to go. Make sure if you got to do any kind of repairs, if there's a tear or anything like that you need to fix, make sure it's fixed. Make sure you've worn the thing out training and doing some of the longer rides and runs, and make sure you're comfortable. Find out where the chafe spots are to where you need to put in extra body glide or anything. So make sure your tri clothing is good to go, broken in as well. You've washed it a few times and you're used to it and you're making sure that it's going to work for you. Make sure your wetsuit's in good shape. If you got any holes that you need patch, you've been putting it off, patch them now. Make sure they're in good shape. Get a swim in. Even if it's in your pool, you can wear it once and then just wash it off really good to get the chlorine off. But make sure you've gotten your wetsuit out, you've broken it in. Like I said, here in Kansas City, I'm doing Ironman Tulsa at the end of May. There may be a few opportunities to get outside before the race, but there is one race locally that I intend on doing here at the Kansas City Tri. Get my wetsuit out, get it in open water, make sure everything works, make sure there's no surprise rips or anything like that. You know, if it's been sitting in your closet all winter, soak it in the bathtub for a little bit and let the moisture kind of soak back up, because it will shrink and kind of get, not brittle per se, but it could potentially be more apt to rip if it hasn't been hydrated with water in a while. So just soak it in your tub, let it dry, and it's good, and then put it on, make sure it all works. Make sure you have ample supply of nutrition and hydration. So if you're going to use something that's not in course, I use UCAN, I do Pop-Tart Bites on the bike, special needs and T2. So it's not generally provided on the course. So make sure that you've got a replenished supply. So if you've been using your training, make sure you're going to have enough to get from where you're at 4 to 5 weeks out to race day, especially if it's a special order stuff and you have to order it in the mail. You don't want to get the weekend before the race and you got the race and you realize you don't have enough stuff to get ready for the race. You don't want to have to show up to Ironman Village and hopefully you can find the stuff for sale somewhere in Ironman Village. So make sure you got all your stuff. You know, make your list and check it, your traveling list. Don't have one, let me know. I can always send you one. But 4 to 5 weeks out, make sure you got all your nutrition, all your hydration, all your specialized gear that you're going to need that's that you use up as you're getting close to there. You know, even if it's grease monkey wipes that you use to clean your hands off with if you change your tires, your wheels, or something like that. Just make sure you have everything enough from 4 to 5 weeks out to get you to race day and a little bit over. Just make sure you're playing out and prepared. Make sure your swim goggles are in good shape. So if you've been using them, personally I try to use one pair of goggles all year round. I always bring a backup pair just in case. But make sure the little nose piece doesn't have a crack in it, because the last thing you're going to do is put that in the swim start and your nose piece cracks and falls off and you ain't got no goggles to start to swim. And then you're running around frantically to see if anybody has an extra pair. Don't be that person. So make sure the plastic bands are in good shape. Make sure the nose piece is in good shape. If it's a new pair, make sure you warm them a couple times first to get them kind of broken in and get used to them. If there's any problems, get them tightened up the right way and everything. So make sure your swim goggles are ready to go and are not a year and a half old that you've been using all winter and you've just been throwing in your bag and smashing under everything. So make sure your swim goggles are new and ready to go. Fix all the broken stuff you've been putting off all winter. You know, I've made the, if you could, I'm not going to show you behind the camera here, but we're in my basement and kind of the little corner office I made. One of my things all winter was like, man, I'm going to clean up the basement, and it just never happens. So just like that, we put off everything. It's like, we can make it work and kind of make it work. So maybe your sunglasses, I've had this problem, a little screw has come out, or it's really loose and you need to replace it or something, or get just a new pair of sunglasses. You've been putting it off and just making it work. Now's the time to go find a replacement or fix your sunglasses. Your bike helmet visor, I know we all have a lot of problems with, if you break it, like mine's in the bag right now because I went ahead and bought the one that flips for my Wing 57 Ruby project here. So make sure that your visor is good to go if you're going to wear a visor, or if you're going to wear your sunglasses on there. I know I always put it off. I broke the visors and it kind of worked, but it kind of came off sometimes. It's kind of annoying. It's the last thing you want to deal with, especially in the longer distance races. You're putting all your training eggs into one basket, and you don't want to be kind of flustered and all mad and upset on race day because you can't get your visor to work, and then you don't have anything to protect your eyes in the ride. You can't do crap in there. It's just not good. So don't put it off. If your bike visor is something you've been putting off, make sure you got that squared away and you're ready to go with that. Another one, your bike bag. So if you're shipping your bike, make sure it's in good shape. If you put off, if you've it got tore up in the last shipment or something like that, but that was, back in October or November last year. 4 to 5 weeks out, make sure that that bike box or bike bag or whatever you're using is good to go. So if you've got to repair it, if you've got to order a new one, now's the time to start thinking about that and get that ready and squared away. So the pack for a race day, all you got to do is pull it out and put your stuff in. You know for sure it's good to go. So don't put off all these things you've been putting off. Like I said, repairing a zipper if it's fixable on your wetsuit, or it's not repairable, you need a new wetsuit. It's just things you've been putting off all winter, especially as you approach into the spring. We all have that tendency, the focus is off of racing and triathlons. It's on family, it's on holidays, all this other stuff. But now's the time, 4 to 5 weeks out, start thinking about all this stuff that you need to fix and get ready for your race. Stop putting it off. Now's the time to get to it. Another one is replace all the batteries in your sensors. So if you got a heart rate sensor, you've got cadence sensors, you got speed sensors on your bike, you got power meter pedals, make sure you have the batteries at least. And then I made the mistake, Ironman Chattanooga 2019, I thought my batteries were okay in my Garmin Vector 3 pedals, and they died halfway through. It wasn't a huge loss, but at the time it would have been nice to have that information as I was going through the race to see what was going on with my power. Since I trained by power, I made it work, but I didn't replace them because I didn't have any and didn't know where. I tried to look in a few stores and couldn't find the right batteries. So make sure you've got at least the right batteries so when you get to your race you can swap them all out, make sure everything works. I would advise, like I said, doing that a couple weeks before you go, just to make sure all the batteries are fresh and make sure the sensors still work, and you don't have to repair these sensors to the watches or anything, or reconnect them. So freshen up all your batteries. It's kind of like spring forward and fall back with daylight savings time and changing the batteries and all your smoke detectors. 4 to 5 weeks out, you're doing all this stuff, switch out all your batteries and your sensors, because you don't want them dying the day before the race or something like that and having to mess with that or stress with that. Another one is those nasty ass water bottles. I know my water bottles, the sports drinks, get kind of stuck in the lids, especially the newer ones they've got, the new water bottles. So just make sure that stuff's cleaned out. The last thing you want to do is be training and drinking that stuff, and it gives you GI issues, especially during a race. So if you got stuff clogged in there, even though it goes through a dishwasher, you have to soak the lids to make sure all that stuff is out of there. Just make sure, do a very close inspection of your water bottles. Make sure there's nothing gross in there that's going to cause you problems on race day. Another one is, I say shipping bags. So whatever you're going to use to get your gear, whatever you use for flights, whatever you use for travel, make sure that your bags are good to go. No tri-bike transport if you're shipping with a bag. My last bag, the handle's ripped, the bag's just toast, so I need to find a replacement. For me, for Tulsa, I'm driving down there, so it's not a big deal right now. But if you got a bag that you're going to use for tri-bike transport, now's the time to either fix it or replace it. You don't want to get there and be rushing around to a store or something like that the weekend before and trying to find some bag you think will work, and you end up having to get the cheapest thing you can find, and it rips, and you lose your stuff, and you try to transport, don't know where to find it. You don't want to mess with that. So make sure everything you're going to travel with is good to go. Like I said, your shipping bags, if it's ripped, if it's torn, if you need a new bag, now's the time to look into it. So this is by no means is a total comprehensive list of things to be thinking about, but I want to get in front of you to think about your race prep, especially, like I said, this is right now, at the time of this video, we're beginning of March of 2020. So we're looking at a person I'm doing Ironman Tulsa at the end of May. I got athletes doing Oceanside 70.3 beginning of April. So now is the time, you know who you are, you're getting ready for that race, or you're doing 70.3 Galveston, you're doing 70.3 in Panama Beach City, Gulf Coast, or anything like that. Now's the time to be getting this stuff squared away. Because if you're flying there, you need to have all this stuff squared away. So don't stop putting it off. Go through your checklist of everything you're going to bring, make sure it's in good shape, and you will be ready. One less thing off your plate. Make the time to do it and get it done. Take one night, take your list, find out everything you need to do, and then start chipping away at that list and start looking at the stuff that's going to take the longest amount of time to get. So if you have to get a new bike bag, or you have to get new hydration or new nutrition, and it takes 3 to 4 I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, but maybe a week or a week and a half for it to get shipped to you. Especially in the trying times right now, we've got like coronavirus floating around. It may impede on shipment times. So plan ahead. Make sure that you're doing the stuff weeks at a time. Nutrition and hydration has pretty good shelf life of a couple months, so you're not going to be too far ahead and letting it sit and then it goes bad or something silly like that. So make sure that you're focusing on getting all of your stuff squared away, because the last thing we'd be doing is dealing with packing your stuff the weekend before and realizing you've got a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed or repaired, and then you're spending that week before flying around, wasting a lot of energy being stressed out, trying to get everything fixed and squared away before you either fly or drive out, and then get to the race and still have to square stuff away. So take care of it now, 4 to 5 weeks out. Make sure it's not a problem, and then it's easy peasy getting to the race day, and then you have a good day and a good time on race day. That's all I got for this video on getting prepped, getting your gear ready for race day. If you have any questions, like always, email me, send me a message, reply to the videos, put a comment on the video, and I will get back to you and talk to you later.